So I was in India from January of 2013 through August of 2017, and I found JoJo in September of 2016, after I had been living up in Himachal Pradesh in the city of Rekang-Pio, Kannar district, and we had a medical clinic up there. I don't know what to say.
Alright, so we're here to talk about JoJo, and what we're wanting is to hear the story of how JoJo came into your life, what your life was like at that time, just kind of paint a picture of where you were, what you were doing, how it all came about, and then we'll go from there as to we want to get into what JoJo means to you, how he's been in for the last 4 to 6 years. Did you say 6 years?
5. He'll be 5 in September.
Okay. So the idea, I think, rather than an interview where it's back and forth because I'm not mic'd, it would be best if you're just talking.
I don't it was late, and my phone says 12:51 p.m. U.S. time, so I think it was 9.5 hours forward from that, so it'd be what would that be? Let's see, 9:51, it's 10:20ish. So it was probably around 9:30 or so, 9:20, 9:30, when the neighbor kids came and knocked on my door, and they're like, Auntie Lindsay. And then they were telling me in Hindi, come, there's puppies, you have to come see them. And I was kind of oh, okay, I'll come see the puppies. It's 9:30 at night on a school night. Why aren't you guys in bed yet? Kind of thing. But I love my neighbor kids. And so ran over with them. And Lakshu has my heart. He's one of the little boys.
Was that 9 at night or in the morning?
Yeah, so it would have been in the night. So the kids came. It was after dinner at some point, and it was dark. I was in my PJs, actually, because the pictures, when I look back at the pictures, I was in my PJs, and they were super excited, so I wanted to appease them and go and just see the puppies, even though I wasn't super excited about going outside and seeing puppies. But then when we got out there, at first I think that they had only found one puppy, and they picked it up, and I was concerned, if they pick up the puppy, the mommy dog's not gonna come back for it, because you always hear, don't touch a bunny, don't touch a bird, whatever. And so then I'm oh gosh, just put it down, but they're holding it and cuddling it, and they're tiny. They just fit in your hand. And then as we're standing away, I can hear more noises, and they made these kind of, a squeakish noise, so that hearing that, what in the world? So then we went again to it's a gully type of area where the dirty water runs, and then it's just straight up onto the mountain wall. And so trying to listen, found another puppy, and then they were oh my gosh, there's 2. Well, actually there was 4. So there were 2 more, and they were in a burlap type sack, down kind of in the gully underneath of where the water then runs underneath the road and goes down the mountainside on the other side of the road. So they were down there, and I suspect that someone probably dumped them, because dogs are a huge problem in India, and probably one of the dogs on their property had a litter. They gathered up the litter and dumped them. But I don't know, it's hard to say. Those 2 dogs could have accidentally gone into a bag, but I don't know. So anyway, 4 puppies, not sure what to do. So I suggested that we leave them out in case the mommy puppy wants to come, but it was really cold, so I grabbed like a bunch of my old Kurta shirts and one of those hot water bottles, and I filled it with boiling water, and we padded the bottom of a box, put them in the box that was high enough for them not to crawl out, but low enough for a mommy puppy to come. Well, that was probably... that was the 24th. I don't know. I have my dates all confused because in theory, I think we have his birth date down as the 23rd. But, so then the next morning I remember I got up and I was just like, you know, when you wake up and then you're like, I have something to do. Like I was like, oh my gosh, there's puppies out there. Like, so I ran outside and was hoping to find an empty box where a mommy dog had come and taken puppies, but the puppies were in there. And they weren't moving very much. It was pretty chilly. So I gathered them up and put them against my body heat and brought them inside. And after a little while, they started to move and stuff again. I think just as their blood flow increased. And then I happened to have internet at that point. So I was able to get online. I found an Australian website where it talked about like how to make... like mother's milk, but it was like eggs and oil and maybe salt. I don't think it had any sugar. I can't remember all the ingredients, but anyway, I should remember it because I made it so many times, but like we had to feed them. At first it was like every 2 hours, then every 3 hours, then every 4 hours, but it was kind of like a newborn baby type schedule, and through 24/7. And then
how old do you think he was at that point?
I would guess that when we found him, when we found the puppies, I would guess that they had been born that day. The mom had definitely licked them clean because they were completely clean, but their eyes were closed still and they still had their umbilical cords attached. And we did research of like, when do puppy eyes open and when do puppy umbilical cords fall off? And in that research, I forget however many days it said. It gave a range, like let's say 7 to 10. And it was at the end mark of the range on both of the things. And so based on that, I speculate that we probably found them within the first 24 hours that they were born. Yeah. So then Carolyn and Asha and I were 3 teammates. There were 4 puppies, and that first evening, when the puppies when we left them for the mom, I think it was that night that only 3 puppies were there. I don't think all 4 were there. I can't remember. I think at that point, some random person that had been another neighbor that had been there had taken one of the puppies. Well, that puppy ended up passing away, but the 3 that we had lived. And so Carolyn and Asha and I took turns like being the person who had to feed the puppy and toilet them because, do you want this on camera? Okay. So apparently mommy dogs lick the baby's bottoms in order for them to use the bathroom. So we cut up my shirts, a lot of them, and into these tiny little squares, and we would get them wet. Like before or after you fed them, you were supposed to do this. You get it wet and it would make them go to the potty. So it was quite an endeavor. Every time that we would feed them, we'd also bathroom them. And what we did, originally we just had gone to the dukandar, which is like the storekeeper, and we had gotten these baskets, crates, I think it's what we would call them, like a plastic crate, like what we had in elementary school. And we used that for the puppies, and they couldn't get out of it at first, so we all 3 were together in one. And then we would, like, I would feed at, like, let's say 1 a.m. and then I would then like maybe feed at, I don't know, 4 a.m. And then I would take the whole box of puppies and I would walk outside and take them to where Asha and Carolyn lived and put the puppies outside of their door all bundled up with a hot water bottle in the box with them. And then they would get them for this. One of them would be responsible for like the 7 a.m. feeding and the 10 a.m. feeding. And then the other one might be responsible for the 1 p.m. and the 4 p.m. feedings. And then they would shift the box of the puppies back to my house, and I would get the 7 p.m. and the 10 p.m. And so we just kind of did that. We shifted the responsibility, and we each named one of the puppies. So I, of course, named mine JoJo, the one that we each like kind of took over one of them as the one to name. And then that became the puppy that we were more endeared to. We would carry that particular puppy around whenever we would go anywhere, because they had to go with us everywhere. It wasn't like we could leave them around because they needed care all the time, and we were working full time. So we took the puppies to the medical clinic with us. We had puppies in the office at the medical clinic, and everybody thought we were crazy. But everybody also had wanted us to do something. Like all the kids were like, you know, you're a nurse, you can keep them alive. Like, so a little responsibility there. But Sweet Pea, JoJo, and Kempty. What do you hear? Come here. Oh, come here. What is it? What is it? He's all riled up. Come here. I think it was the neighbor kids. I think it was just the neighbor friends. Yeah. It was probably Maya and Quentin. You're fine. Why don't you sit down? Why don't you get on video also? Yeah. Look. Look over there. See it? He's like...
That's exactly what he thinks of that.
Exactly. JoJo. So we originally, they were too little to drink out of baby bottles. We went to town and bought these baby bottles, and they just couldn't manage it. So we tried spoons, and that didn't work. And then we got syringes from the clinic, and the syringes worked for a long time. And then after it got to the point where they were drinking enough, and it was spaced out enough, and they were big enough to do the baby bottles, we did bottles. But they didn't have the same amount of suck as a human baby, so we had to like put extra holes in the nipples and stuff. JoJo, chillax. Look, he has his spikes out too. Stop. You're fine. Oh. When he was little, I used to, if we'd be walking down the road and he would, if there would be like drunk guys walking or whatever, and I wanted it to feel like I could be protected, I would go, and then he would bark, and the people would they'd be like, oh, there's a dog, because people are kind of scared of dogs.
कहाँ से वो तेल इसमें से निकलता है ना एक दो तेल निकाल के अच्छा आप कैसे बनाते हैं ये नहीं बनाते गाय से गाय को खिलाते हैं अच्छा like tail बनाने के बाद
The waterfall wasn't here that day, but 7 years ago almost, in 3 days it'll be 7 years, when I found JoJo down here where the waterfall is, there was a bag with 2 of the puppies were in it and 2 of them had gotten out of the bag and they were underneath kind of down there crying. And we thought maybe they had, the bag had, or we thought maybe the puppies just had fallen from above and come down, but I would assume someone jumped them. But the neighbor kids were like, Auntie Lindsay, come, you have to save them.